ॐ वक्रतुण्ड
वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय
महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ
सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा
निर्विघ्नं
निर्विघ्नं
कुरु
कुरु
मे
मे
देव
देव
सर्वकार्येषु
सर्वकार्येषु
सर्वदा।
सर्वदा।
सरस्वती
सरस्वती
नमस्तुभ्यं
नमस्तुभ्यं
वरदे
वरदे
कामरूपिणे
कामरूपिणे
विद्यारम्भं
विद्यारम्भं
करिष्यामि
करिष्यामि
सिद्धिर्भवतु
सिद्धिर्भवतु
मे
मे सदा।
सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा
गुरुब्रह्मा
गुरुर्विष्णुः
गुरुविष्णुः
गुरुर्देवो
गुरुर्देवो
महेश्वरः
महेश्वरः
गुरुः
गुरुः
साक्षात्
साक्षात्
परं
परं
ब्रह्म
ब्रह्म
तस्मै
तस्मै
श्रीगुरवे
श्रीगुरवे
नमः।
नमः।
ॐ
ॐ
सहना
सहना
भवतु
भवतु
सहनौ
सहनो
भुनक्तु
भुनक्तु
सह
सह
वीर्यं
वीर्यं
करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
मा
मा
विद्विषावहै।
विद्विषावहै।
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
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 शान्तिः।
शान्तिः।
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः।
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः।
अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः।
अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः।
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्लोका नंबर 62। ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः
सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते
सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते
सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः
सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः
कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते
कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः
सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः
सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः
स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः
स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः
बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति।
बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति।
Up to this shloka we have seen 63. Now the shloka number 64. Having talked about the psychology of the desire, now the next shloka, shloka number 63. Let us stand. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu
रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु
विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन्
विषया इन्द्रियैश्चरन्
आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा
आत्मावश्यैर्थितेयात्मा
प्रसादमधिगच्छति।
प्रसादमधिगच्छति।
रागद्वेष वियुक्तैः, being free from ragadvesha. Ragadvesha viyuktaihi, free from raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes. Atmavashyehi, by the one who is free from raga and dvesha. And Atmavashyehi, Atmavashya, previous shloka also is Atmavashya, Swavashya, under his control, raga dvesha, under his control, Indriyahi, Atmavashyehi, with the sense organs. Yaha Vishayan Charan, one who moves in the Vishayan. Vishaya is objects. Saha Videyatma, Videyatma here, Atma is mind. the one whose mind is Atmavasha, who is controlled, prasadam adhigacchati. In spite of moving in the world of objects, he is at peace. He enjoys peace. His peace with his peace is tranquility. His shanti is not disturbed. Prasadam adhigacchati. Whereas one whose mind is controlled, Videyatma, Vishayan Charan, moving in the world of objects, with the sense organs, Indriyahi, Atma Vishayahi, Indriyahi, with the sense organs under his control, Ragadvesha Viktaihi, free from likes and dislikes. He attains Shantihi, Prasadam Adhigacchati. Prasadam is Shanti, tranquility. We have seen that even a Viveki cannot dwell upon objects of Ragadveshas, likes and dislikes, if he or she still has rasa, a value for these objects. All this dwelling upon is called meditation. One who dwells upon dvesha in order to avoid them, for which one has to scheme and plan, whereas objects of raga are dwelt upon in order to gain them. Vishaya Dhyanam. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. Dwelling upon the desirability of objects is indeed the basis for all problems that come later. It is a cause for the affection and love that develops for the object. Once affection is there, it will naturally turn into a desire. If the desire is fulfilled, there is no problem. But if it is not fulfilled, the whole psychology of how one loses oneself comes into play. That is shloka number 63, 62 and 63, as Krishna pointed out in the previous two shlokas. The present shloka reveals how the problem created by the unfulfilled desires becomes neutralized, and once again points out the starting point for moksha. The natural pursuit of a person's sense organ is in keeping with his or her ragas and dveshas, likes and dislikes. But suppose a person is a seeker, mumukshu, meaning that he or she wants moksha, for which self-knowledge is required, then all his pursuits cannot be dictated by his ragadveshas. The word mumukshu is especially pertinent here in that it means one who is desirous of moksha, liberation. Moktam ichuhu mumukshu. We have seen that moksha is one of the four pursuits purushartha open to a human being. But for a mumukshu, moksha alone is important. He or she has already sought after and experienced pursuits of artha, kama, security, artha, and pleasure. Kama, pleasure, artha, security, or has learned about them by observing the pursuits of others. From all this, the person has developed the viveka, discrimination, and because of this viveka alone, he has become a mumukshu. Thus, the one who has viveka is a mumukshu, whereas a person who is merely curious is not. The person who wants to be free must necessarily have a lot of viveka for this particular desire. At the same time, he or she does have some ragadveshas. Ragadveshas do not just go away because the person has viveka. What does the mumukshu do then? This was exactly Arjuna's situation. During the war that eventually ensued, his son died, and Arjuna took a vow that before sunset he would avenge his son's death by killing the person who was responsible. We see then Arjuna had a lot of grief. This was because ragadveshas don't go away overnight. Even though in the 18th chapter of the Gita, which preceded the above episode, Arjuna had said, "No more delusion for me. I know exactly what it is all about." It still had ambitions and therefore attachments. He had definitely been living a life of dharma, but ragadveshas were still in his heart. This is why one has to live a life of karma yoga for a length of time. A karma yogi is a mumukshu. The sense organs of a mumukshu are freed from ragadvesha, meaning that they are not backed up by ragadveshas. Because this is because the mumukshu has been living a life of karma yoga. Such a person doesn't run away from the world. Where would he or she go? The mumukshu goes about in the world, experiencing the sense objects. The word charan here means reaching or going or moving in the sense of movement. but it can also have the sense of knowledge. In fact, any verbal root that has a sense of reaching or going has also the sense of knowing or experiencing. For example, the expression reaching Brahma means understanding and knowing Brahma. There is no going or moving in the sense of reaching somewhere. So, too, in this shloka, Charan doesn't mean that the person is moving around in the physical sense. The word means experiencing. Experiencing and takes all the sense organs into account, the experience of seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting. The senses are open and the world of sense objects is there. Therefore, the shloka also describes the sense organs as being in the person's hands, not in the hands of ragadveshas. Atmavashyehi. Indriyaihi atmavashyehi. Ragadveshavayuktahi indriyaihi vishayancharan. This means that all one's pursuits are not dictated by ragadvesha, but by dharma and adharma, and what is proper and improper. The person decides what he or she wants and is not goaded by his or her likes and dislikes. The raga dveshas do not decide. When your raga dveshas do not come between yourself and the sense pursuits, the determining factor for the sense pursuits is purely dharma and adharma. Then you become one whose mind moves only according to your will. In other words, you are a person who is together, yuktaha. Such a person is a karma yogi, living a life of karma yoga for the sole purpose of neutralizing this raga and dveshas. Every karma yogi is a mumukshu. The person is a karma yogi because he or she is a mumukshu. Karma yoga is there only because a person has mumuksha. Let's say for moksha, liberation. Because karma yoga is meant for moksha, the karma yogi pursues knowledge while engaged in freeing himself or herself from the hold of raga dvesha. This latter pursuit makes a person a karma yogi and marks the difference between a karma yogi and a sannyasi. Whether a person is a sannyasi or karma yogi, he or she is one who has the senses and mind together. Yuktaha. Such a person gains satisfaction or tranquility. Prasadam adhigacchati. We have already seen that prasada is anything that comes from the Lord. The prasada has another meaning: cheerfulness, satisfaction, tranquility, which is what happens in the mind of one whose sense organs are in one's own hands and one is free from the world of raga dvesha. The satisfaction, the contentment is with oneself. The mind is steady and there is an almost total absence of agitation and self-dissatisfaction. The person's knowledge is steady, sthira, and it stays. That raga dveshas are to be tackled is the whole psychology of Gita. Next shloka, 65. Prasade sarva dukkhanam
Prasade sarva dukkhanam
hanirasyopajayate
hanirasyo bhajayate
prasanna chetaso hyashu
prasanna chetaso hyashu
buddhih paryavatishtate.
buddhif paryavatishtate.
Previous shloka, ragadvesha vyuktahi atmavashyahi indriyahi vishayan charanyaha saha prasadam adhigacchati. The type of prasada is continued. Prasade sarvadukkanam. When the prasada is there, tranquility, shanti, cheerfulness. Sarvadukkanam hanihi upajayate. All dukkha, they get destroyed. Upajayate. Destruction of all the dukkhas are born, is born. Prasanna chetasaha. One was prasanna chetasaha, pleasant mind, tranquil mind. Buddhihi paryavatishtate. Buddhihi, the knowledge. Paryavatishtate means tishtati. Chitapragyaha. His knowledge is stira bhavati. Buddhihi paryavatishtate. Pratishtitaha bhavati. Buddhihi pratishtita bhavati. Paryavatishtate iti. Prasanna chetasa is because of all the dukkhas are destroyed. All the dukkhas are gone because he has got prasada. Prasada, the mind is tranquil. That is because he is free from raga dveshas. So that is the connection. When the mind is tranquil, prasade, saptami, when the mind is tranquil, then sarva dukkha, destruction of all pain and sorrow happens. Sarva dukkhanam hanihi upajayate, because the knowledge of one who is tranquil minded soon becomes well established. Buddhihi prasanna chetasaha shashti bhakti. Of the person who has prasanna chetas, pleasant mind, tranquil mind, peaceful mind, whose mind is peaceful, his buddhi, his knowledge, pratishtita bhavati, established in jnanam. In fact, prasanna chetas is because of jnanam. One whose mind is under control directs the mind according to his or her will. Such a person experiences the world through sense organs that are not backed by likes and dislikes. In this way, the raga dveshas are neutralized and the person gains a mind which is cheerful, composed, and tranquil. For the person whose mind is tranquil, all the dukkhas, pain and sorrow, are destroyed. Although the plural form of dukkhas is used here, all sorrow is same. One person is crying because he lost the kingdom, and someone else is crying because he lost his car. What is the difference between the two sorrows? Both of them are crying. Does dukkha subject itself to division? No. Sorrow is the same, whatever the reason. Whether you lose your kingdom or your hair, the sadness is the same. What Krishna meant here is that all sorrow, whatever it be its source, is destroyed for the person whose mind is tranquil. In an earlier discussion, we saw three sources of sorrow: adhyatmika, adi devika, adi bhautika. Sorrow caused by people and situations in the external world. Adi bhautika dukkha, sorrow caused by calamities over which you have no control, adi devika dukkha, and finally sorrow caused by your own body, mind, and senses, adhyatmika dukkha. Your own past memories or the condition of your physical body create adhyatmika dukkha. Whereas a dukkha caused by your brother-in-law is an example of adi bhautika dukkha. Any natural calamity is adi devika dukkha. Krishna said that these threefold dukkhas are all destroyed. Sarva dukkhanam hanihi, destruction, upajayate, is born or destroyed. Although all the dukkhas are destroyed when the mind is tranquil, the causes for dukkha themselves do not go away. They are merely incapable of causing dukkham. The body may experience physical pain, but there will not be dukkha because the mind is tranquil, prasannaha. A tranquil mind means that the raga dveshas have been neutralized. Desirable and undesirable situations do not cause reactions. All dukkhas are said to be destroyed because the real nature of the Atma is tranquility, and that tranquility is manifest in the mind. The mind is stifled only because of ragadvesha. The fullness of the Atma, which is its nature, Ananda Swarupa, is inhibited from manifesting in the mind because of ragadveshas alone. The ragadveshas inhibit the fullness, Ananda. When the ragadveshas are neutralized, the Ananda is uninhibited, and the mind is tranquil. Destruction of dukkha is said to be born, upajayate, here in the sense that it happens, it takes place. A tranquil mind means that the knowledge is not far away. Does mere tranquility destroy all forms of dukkha? No. Destruction of all dukkhas can happen only when there is self-knowledge. Dukkhas go away for the person who has a tranquil mind, because the knowledge for such a person is not far away. We are talking about a siddha prajna here. This knowledge, the subject matter of which is Atma, self-knowledge, is steady, and like space, it just stays. It doesn't move. The earth, air, and everything else moves, whereas space is always steady. Similarly, the mind of a person with self-knowledge stays. And because the knowledge stays, the mind no longer causes any problem. The knowledge stays because there is nothing to oppose or inhibit it. This means that the very person stays in the form of knowledge. The mind of such a person becomes a useful instrument. Because the mind is tranquil, it no longer causes trouble. To gain tranquility, you have to take care of your ragadveshas. Whatever is required is what you have to follow, whether it is karma yoga or something else. Only when tranquility is there does the knowledge stay. This means the knowledge becomes clear, having been freed from all vagueness and doubts. Otherwise, you will always doubt your own knowledge. You will say things like, with this kind of mind, how can I say that I know? The mind itself creates all kinds of doubts, which is a problem. The mind has to gain that tranquility, that is the basis for self-knowledge. And to do this, it has to free itself from the raga dveshas. Then all the dukkha go away because the knowledge stays. Tranquility is a condition that frees one's knowledge from all obstructions, and because of that knowledge, all forms of sorrows are gone, and the person is said to have gained moksha. Next shloka, shloka number 66. All these are connected. Now, nasti buddhirayuktasya
Nasti buddhirayuktasya
nacha yuktasya bhavana
nacha yuktasya bhavana
nacha bhavayata shantihi
nacha bhavayatha shantihi
ashantasya kutas sukham.
ashantasya skruta sukham.
Buddhihi ayuktasya nasti. Ayuktasya, for the one who doesn't have this prasada buddhi, shanti buddhi. For him, buddhihi, there is no knowledge possible. So for the knowledge has to take place, raga dvesha should be sufficiently neutralized. Then only the mind will be tranquil, knowledge can take place. Therefore, ayuktasya buddhihi jnanam nasti. For the one who is not tranquil, knowledge cannot take place. Then ayuktasya cha na acha ayuktasya bhavana. For the one who is not tranquil, nididhyasanam, contemplation is not possible. Nacha abhavayataha. Nacha abhavayataha. For the one who is not contemplative, where is Shanti? Where is Jnanam, and therefore where is Shanti? Therefore, Ashantasya kutas sukham. Shanti because of knowledge. So for the one who doesn't contemplate, who doesn't do nididhyasana, where is the Swarupa Shanti? Knowledge of the Swarupa Shanti. Therefore, no Shanti, no Sukham. Iti. For the one who is not tranquil, there is no knowledge. For the one who is not tranquil, there is no contemplation. For the one who is not contemplative, there is no peace. For the one who has no peace, how can there be happiness? So this shloka is Krishna's way of praising a Prashanta Manasa, Prasada Chetas, Prashanta Manas. The word Ayukta here means a person who doesn't have the cheerful, tranquil mind that was discussed in the previous shloka. So contextual, therefore, we have to take Ayukta meaning Na Yuktaha Yuktaha, the one who is not with himself. Ashanta Manasaha. Iti. Prasada is not there. The mind is not tranquil. The Ayukta is one who has not taken care of his or Ragadvesha sufficient. It must be clearly understood that what is being said here is in no way meant as a judgment. If this is not understood correctly, a problem of self-judgment can arise as you listen to the Gita and Vedanta Shastra. I am useless, you may say. Because there is already a tape inside, the self-criticism begins immediately. All that the Swami has to do is utter one negative statement and this inner tape switches on automatically. Because I am Ayukta, I will never get this knowledge. Since the tendency is to judge yourself, you must know that what is being said in the Gita is not meant as criticism. Its sole purpose is self-understanding. If having heard what the Gita says, there is something to be done, if it is to be done, there is nothing more to it than that. If raga dveshas are there, they are to be taken care of. That's all. The word buddhi here means knowledge of the Atma, that by which you understand the Atma, the self. Adequate knowledge doesn't take place for the one whose mind is in the hands of ragadveshas. For a yukta, the ragadveshas are neutralized and there is no problem, whereas for an ayukta, ragadveshas are there, causing his or her knowledge to be inadequate. In addition to the knowledge being inadequate, the pressure of the ragadveshas more often than not will drive the person towards the desirable objects to be gained and retained, and those that are to be avoided and eliminated. There is nothing right or wrong about ragadvesha pursuits. This is just to explain how the pressures of ragadveshas work. Because of the natural tendency of the mind towards objects of raga dveshas, there is no yearning for or commitment to self-knowledge. There is time only to nurse one's raga dveshas. Even if you try to read the Gita, your raga will keep clamoring at you. What are you doing? What kind of book are you reading? It is not going to fulfill any of your likes and dislikes. I have so many things to interest you. In this way, the raga dvesha seated inside you demand your attention so much so that if you begin reading the Gita, you will either fall asleep or feel like being something else. Desire stifle one's interest in self-knowledge. Raga dveshas being there, one's interest in the pursuit of self-knowledge will necessarily be stifled and one's commitment is inhibited. Even if you want to contemplate upon the self in order to get rid of some of your problems, the pressure of raga dveshas makes contemplation very difficult. You find that you are unable to sit with yourself even for a short period of time. For the one who cannot sit with himself or herself, who cannot contemplate, who cannot pursue self-knowledge quietly, there is no composure or tranquility. Whereas for the one who contemplates upon oneself, for the one who can stay with oneself, there is tranquility and love of oneself. Thus, the more one can be with oneself, the more tranquil one will be. We are not talking about the commonly known self here. We are talking about the real self, the self that is beautiful. The more you begin to understand, the more you begin to love the self, Atma. The self, the Atma, is not other than yourself. Therefore, self-love comes. And because the self is absolute, the love for it is also absolute. There is a lot of talk about the necessity of developing self-love. But how can you develop a love for this limited self that you have with this crippling ragadveshas? Without feeling love for yourself, you cannot sit with yourself. And when you cannot sit with yourself, there is no tranquility. All of which implies an absence of peace and contentment, ashantihi. Happiness can take place only in a tranquil mind. A person may say that he or she doesn't want peace and contentment, shanti, but wants only happiness, sukham. One may say some people may want shanti, but I am an enterprising person. I want pleasures, joy, and happiness. For me, shanti is useless. But all sukha, all happiness is possible only in a tranquil mind. When you cannot sit with yourself, naturally you are agitated. And when you are agitated, there is a possibility of sukha for you. When you are agitated, there is no sukha. How can a person who is ashanta, who doesn't have shanti, pick up any sukham? There is no way. Sukha is only with yourself. Therefore, the more you can stay with yourself, the more tranquil you are. And the more tranquil you are, the happier you are. Happiness then is another word for tranquility. Only the tranquil person can discover happiness. In fact, such a person discovers happiness even in small things. He or she doesn't require a talk show to be happy. Everything in the world becomes amusing to the person who is tranquil. If you have tranquility, the whole world is a continuous joke. You require nothing. It's all there, free of charge. Just open your eyes and you see the joke. When inner tranquility is there, you require nothing to be happy. Whereas if it is not there, happiness cannot even be bought. Happy hour doesn't buy you happiness. It only robs you of your money. It may be an happy hour for the owner of the bar, but not for anyone else. For both you and your family, it is definitely an unhappy hour. When you cannot stay with yourself, where is the possibility of sukha for you? One has to take care of raga and dveshas. Raga and dveshas. Otherwise, they are a nuisance. Therefore, whatever is to be done to take care of them must be done. This may imply karma yoga, listening to the teaching shravanam, or further analysis mananam. How the knowledge takes place, what is required for it to become steady, stira, and why it can be so unsteady, astira, and why it can be so unsteady, astira, is what is being discussed in these shlokas. Next shloka 67, we will read later. Stop here. Om Purnamadah
Om
Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadhaya
Purnamadaya
Purnamevavashishyate.
Purnamevavashishyate. Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti. Harihi
Harihi
Om
Om
Shri
Shri
Gurubhyo
Gurubhyo
Namaha.
Namaha. Harihi
Harihi
Om.
Om.
Dhanyavadaha.
Dhanyavadaha.